Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday 10 with CadChica Sports. I am your host, Sunny Cadwallader, also known as CadChica. Tuesday 10 is a quick 10-minute chat with leaders and up-and-comers in the world of media, in the world of sports, in media, broadcasting, business marketing, social media, and more. And today, my guest is coming to us from Google itself. Please welcome my guest, Max Goldstein. Hey, Max.
Hey, Sonny, how's it going? Oh, we got the applause. Thank you very much. I actually live somewhere. I live in Brooklyn, New York. So, we work at Google, but, don't just come from Google. We don't eat and sleep there all the time. So, we're real people, and we like to get out in the open as well.
That's okay. I told you I would bring in the sound effects for you. I have to do it up right, do it up big for you today. Thanks for joining me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me, and thank you for putting on these shows. I think we were talking a little bit before the show, just how really great it is to see power users embracing the platform, using it the way it's intended, and it's great examples for us as we talk to different people in the sports world, having really cool examples of like, hey, this is what a weekly sports show looks like on Google+. So we appreciate that and organizing this, and your great fan community who participates. Finally got some questions in, so. Glad we got a few of those.
Yes, we do, and we will get to those. But first, why don't you give everybody a little bit of background about yourself? You are the Sports Partnership Manager. What is a Sports Partnership Manager?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's definitely a unique position within Google. We don't have a lot of sports partnership managers walking around of sorts, but so I have a background in sports. I've worked in baseball operations for the Mets and the Red Sox, and then played Varsity Baseball in college. So I know sports a little bit, and then had a number of roles within Google before falling into this role, and a lot of it had to do with because I knew sports. So we had a need, and that need is really centered around Google+, and helping partners create really cool content on the platform to, again, act as use cases to drive more engagement and acquire new users, and to have the platform really shine. So I think a lot of our work falls into sort of three major buckets of sort of what my day-to-day looks like. So we do work a lot with athletes. We think that bringing athletes on the platform and giving fans on Google+ direct access, whether it's through photos or posts, but also through this great platform called Hangouts, that athletes are key for us to really build a vibrant community here. And for us, we're really sort of building on this trend that athletes are sort of turning into their own media company.
Yes.
I think you've talked about that a lot, and we covered it a lot on the hashtag SportsComp. That athletes they have great distribution networks. When Kevin Durant wants to announce a contract extension, he posted on Twitter. He doesn't need to go to the media anymore.
Right.
When they want to post a great photo, a lot of them have Instagram accounts, and for us, what is that sort of next step in terms of beyond just 140 characters or a photo, but really getting athletes to connect directly with fans using the Hangouts platform and eliminate even more of those barriers and create new distribution networks for them. So that's a big effort for us. And we also, we are working with sort of sports media in traditional sense. We have some really great examples of working with media partners. For example, Good Morning America, integrates Hangouts in the morning where people from around the world can say good morning via Hangout, or Vice News is doing Hangouts on air from remote locations around the world. So we definitely want to help media companies use our products to help tell their stories and editorial, and then we work closely with teams and leagues how to go deep with a team like Manchester United, who did this really cool experience called Front Row. Picking a partner, going deep with them, seeing what we can do that's really cool and innovative. So most of our work falls in one of those three buckets. So it's a busy day.
Definitely. So you mentioned Manchester United. What are some of the leagues and teams? Are they reaching out that have reached out, or if you want to happen to break some news, or that you're going to be working with doing these Hangouts?
Well, I sort of backtrack a little bit. Whether it's us or YouTube or sales, we have points of contact with a lot of these teams and leagues going back many years. So Google, it wasn't as though Google Plus was invented and all of a sudden like, hey, we need a point of contact with the NBA. They're a great YouTube partner, and we try to work very closely with them on those sorts of things. So it's not as though these are just new conversations. I think anytime you're working with a big league or an organization, these things definitely take time, and it certainly helps when we either it's on the athlete side or on the innovation side with Manchester United, we have cool examples, and I think this certainly garnered some interest what we did with Front Row, and it's one of those sort of once-in-a-lifetime types experience, and our team in EMEA based in London did a really great job with it, sort of telling the story of what it means from people around the world to be able to be basically at Old Trafford front row, and what that means to them in their life, and that's what sports is all about, right? Things that we absolutely love and passionate about, and so it was a really great campaign, and I think we'd certainly like to continue to look at that example and others to see how we can apply it here in the States.
Maybe you can use that example for this question.
Okay. Wow, this is super interactive. You're a pro.
We are bringing it today.
Yeah,
she wants to know when she can expect to see her favorite team. Her favorite team are the Green Bay Packers. So if there's any Packers digital or social media people out there to pay attention, she wants to know if she will ever see them here. And there's one other follow-up to that from Candace. She wants to know about the Dodgers, the Indians, the Seahawks, the Jags, the Red Sox. She wants to see them doing some cool stuff too. So I'll let you touch on that.
Yeah. So I have family from Milwaukee, big Packers fans as well. So I'm glad I got a Packers question. I think almost every team that you mentioned there are on Google Plus and they're posting. I think sort of the larger question is how do we get them doing cool stuff like what Manchester United did, and I think it's certainly team by team. Oftentimes it can be starting with the very senior leadership or ownership that say, hey, we want to do something really cool with Google. What does that mean? And I think understanding how to work best with us and how our technology can be used, and that partners also need to meet us halfway. We certainly don't want to go to a team and say, hey, we have this really cool idea, you need to implement this. So there needs to be sort of this mutual understanding that both parties need to innovate, that both parties need to put skin in the game and ultimately deliver a really great experience. And we're happy all those teams are on Google Plus, posting regularly, all those things. But we're certainly and we have some great. The Kings have done some amazing things on Google Plus with Glass. The Indiana Pacers have done some really cool stuff. The Colts, also in Indianapolis, done some really great stuff. And we get. I don't want to leave anybody out, but we do get some really cool inbound, and we want to figure out the best ways to make sure that we help them in the right way, and they also have the resources that if we do something cool, they want to replicate it again and again, and not necessarily need our assistance.
So that probably answers John's question here about what steps are being taken to encourage those schools to use Google Plus for sports.
Yeah, I think colleges and universities. So my dad's a professor at University of North Carolina, big Tar Heel. We certainly have been really
North
happy.
Carolina people, gosh, I can't get away from you guys.
I know. I think the whole college basketball community is our Tar Heel fans, except for John, who I think is a Kentucky fan.
We'll forgive him for that.
We'll forget the Big Blue. But yeah, I mean, I think college and universities are a little bit different, right? I mean, they're a little bit more resource stricken. If they're, if they want to, have a Twitter handle, it's fine if an intern does that or a student. Right. But I think for the types of things that we, like to do on the platform, it certainly takes a little bit more energy. So, just making sure that we find the right folks. Stanford's done a really great job. It's a college example. We've done some. Yeah, Stanford's done some great stuff. And I don't want to leave anybody out. I think the West Coast Conference has done some really cool stuff on the platform. And then Carolina, is starting to do more and more hangouts as well, which is great. Duke is, has a great Duke Blue Planet. Pains me to say this, but has a great Google Plus presence and YouTube channel. And we definitely want to support those folks, and but definitely also understand that they do have a little bit more limited resources, and it's just a slightly different challenge in the partnership.
Okay, we have one more question, one other question, and I have my own questions that I do want to get to
Oh
too.
yeah, I know.
Clairvoyant wants to know what Google is doing to assist teams in unitizing the products, YouTube, Google Plus, Android, and what Google is doing to get them to use more of them.
Yeah, so Claire, I mean, I have a job to get folks to use more Google Plus. I think the challenge is oftentimes at a big company, tens of thousands of people. We have folks on the YouTube side, on the Android side, on the Google Plus side, Glass, Chromecast, you name it. We're having conversations at times with similar people, and I think it takes internal coordination to make sure that we're really successful. And every day I come to work, and I think we're getting much better at it to have a more cohesive sort of one Google message, as we like to say, to these partners, so that we can offer them a set of solutions, right? Instead of having to go talk to your Google Plus guy and then your YouTube guy and more, but they're kind of merged at the same time in terms of the commenting system. And I think we understand this, and we work really hard internally to make sure that partners can benefit to get the most out of all these products.
Okay, piggybacking on that question, let me ask you this. What you mentioned, working with the athletes. I think there's such great potential for the athletes using Hangouts, but part of what comes with the athletes are their sponsors.
Yeah.
I'm interested in knowing if, say, an athlete decides to host a Google Hangout on their personal profile, say Nike is their sponsor or Adidas or whoever, how does that balance work for the athletes, for sponsors, given the YouTube terms of service, the Google YouTube or Google terms of service? Can they say Tiger Woods Hangout sponsored by Nike? How does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, I think first and foremost, it would be very difficult for Google to say regulate every single Hangout, every single YouTube video that's being uploaded by anyone in the world that might say, hey, this is presented by so and so. So I think the first and foremost, we have our terms and conditions. It's at times it's difficult to regulate. We certainly are not in a position to propagate any of our partners to go against those terms and conditions. I will say brands are getting much more involved with Google Plus, so that a brand, I think a great example is what T-Mobile did with Coachella. They streamed the entire event on YouTube. We're actually able to integrate a number of really cool, what we like to call sort of like celeb jump moments, where artists at Coachella were able to jump into Hangouts with fans from around the world, and that entire program was sponsored by T-Mobile. So again, you're getting the celebrity or the athlete using the products that we love and getting really great fan experiences, but brands also want to be associated with that. And I think the Coachella T-Mobile sponsorship was great, and we're continue to work closely with our YouTube colleagues and to find other opportunities like that might be applicable in sports.
And like the shoppable Hangouts, because I remember watching the one with Hendrick Motorsports.
Exactly, that was a great one. Yeah. Dale
Jr., Jimmy Johnson doing the shoppable Hangouts. Is that a feature that you're introducing to athletes or more teams or?
Yeah, I mean, so we have a small team. My colleague Ria and Betty Ann really sort of spearhead the shoppable Hangouts effort, and they've done an amazing job. I don't know if you saw the Amazing Spider-Man shoppable Hangout earlier this week. Had the whole cast on there, and we're able to sort of buy, I think, on Google Play some things related to Amazing Spider-Man. So really cool, another cool use case there, and I think continue to see awesome momentum. And I don't feel like this is a product feature that would simply go away. I mean, anytime that you can have something where you can point and click and buy something, and it's a designer or an athlete or celebrity talking about that product, it's pretty powerful stuff. And they've done an amazing job getting that off the ground, and can't wait to watch some more.
Well, our 10 minutes is up, Max. I
Wow.
told you it was
I'm on
going
the
to fly
hot seat.
by, and I'm
Yeah.
going to encourage you, Max. You called me out earlier on the questions on the
I
comment stream
know.
on my
That's some
Google
great
Plus
questions.
events page. There are more questions on there that you need to go answer on the
Okay.
events page that
I
I will let you
certainly
do. But
will.
thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and I'll continue to watch these hangouts, and feel free. I think we're always open to cool ideas. So you guys can plus mention me on Google Plus if you have a really cool idea for an application of Hangouts or anything like that. We certainly always want to listen to our users. You guys are using the products here every day, so any feedback or interesting ideas you have, we certainly would love to hear from you, and really looking forward to making some big headway here in the sports world.
So let people know where they can connect with you, Max.
Yeah, so you can google.com/plus Max Goldstein on Google Plus, and then on Twitter, which I don't use. I have to admit, I'm not quite the Twitter buff. I know some of you
That's
guys.
okay. That's okay.
It's Max_Goldstein. I got some pretty good real estate on that handle, but because I think it's pretty competitive for Max Goldstein. But you can find me on Twitter there.
Well, excellent. And again, thanks for joining me. There are some more questions. If you have more questions for Max, continue to put them on the event page. And I know he will follow up because he called me out, so I'm calling him out
I
to
know.
make sure
I'm on
that
Google Plus all day, so I'm not going to be able to avoid them. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
And thanks everyone for joining me tonight. Please tune in next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific and Arizona time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I will be joined by Ken Fang from fangsbites.com and Awful Announcing. We'll be talking about sports media. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and have a great night.